Good evening, beauties. It is I, your hostess with the most, Simply She. But you know the slogan, I do what I want and not what I can. And what I want to do tonight is introduce you to a dear friend of the show, Mr. Tarod McNight. Say hello to the beauties.
Hey, how y'all doing?
You know, we always got to say hi to the beauties because they are the reason why we do what we do.
Indeed.
I am so excited that you are here sitting down with me. It has been a while. We always make dates, and then because of our busy schedules, we break them. So I'm excited. So how's everything going with you?
Everything is good. Everything is good. I mean, just every day maintaining, doing what I can, living life, and just trying to support my family. That's pretty much been me.
Shit, I get it. Like, trust me, that's the other, according to the politicians, 2.3 billion people here. COVID has really hit us hard. Thankfully though, just to tell you the truth, thankfully I was able to. We've been all right. You know, we've been good. I've been able to retain some employment plus my self business. Welcome to the Me and My show.
Right, right.
Yeah, so it's been good to me. But I am glad to see you. You're a dear friend to the show. I have to shout you out. So
Thank you.
You know, he's such a humble guy, but I have to shout you out for the beginning. Like, Jesus, Saraj, you've been with your girl for a long time, man. Like, especially considering our relationship started we meeting because you sponsored the event for the Touché Awards, which is a dope event.
Even meeting you there, because that was what, 2017.
Yes,
man,
yes.
And it's 3 years strong, and I'm glad I had the opportunity just to not only be there, but just like you were saying with what happened yesterday, just to even network then.
Yes,
because I feel like those are the kind of things that bring us to where we are now.
Touché.
You know.
So yeah, like we met at the Touché Awards. I'm like, look at me, talk to me, listen to me, tell me if you like me, and you know, you are a beauty. You know, it's my beautiful friend to ride, people.
Yes.
You know, and from like day on, the support. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now we are 3 years later.
I know.
And I'm so proud to be able to say that you are now the host of Tarodcast.
I am.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Thank you.
It is so dope of a show. Tell the beauties how Tarodcast came
about. Tarodcast, well, this podcast was one that came about because honestly, I want to say around 2018, 2019, I actually started just listening to podcasts. And in listening to podcasts, I was just like, just different interests. Because like for me, I'm a geek. Sometimes I like sports, sometimes I don't. Just depending on who's playing. But I was wanting to look for media that, for me, because I grew up with Pokemon, so that's like my childhood thing. And so for me, I was like, well,
again, Pokemon was your thing.
Yeah, and that's what I grew up with. So I was like, all right, so I want to listen. Like, I want to know if there's anybody that's actually like talking about this. So I was like, all right, well, I had crossed over the iPhone. Let me download this podcast app and type in Pokemon and see what come up. And so I'm like, I found a couple different podcasts. I was listening to them, and I was like, wow, this is actually really good content. So I began my relationship with podcasts between like 2018, 2019, and as far as the idea to come up with a podcast of my own is concerned, I like to talk to people. I like to have conversations. I like to try and, get to different layers of people through conversation. Because for me, the part of me that wants to relate to people and understand people is, or finds most comfort in getting to know them, and in turn I also get to learn about things regarding myself.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm speaking to different people on social media, off social media, wherever I can find them, and even people I've reconnected with, who I now have really good relationships with. And, coming to a place of understanding within myself where, for me, I want to be more introspective. I want to be more open. I want to talk about the things that people are just like, I'm so glad you told me that. Or,
Right.
I'm glad we had this conversation, or, whatever. Because I'm just like, for me, I feel like, whenever I can be truthful and open and honest, and give someone a part of me that genuinely helps them, or helps to bring understanding to a situation, or even if it's a kind word or whatever the case is, for me, that was something that I was like, I want to do that, but I want to do it in a way where, for me, it's personal. I want to be able to, potentially give someone something that, whether they have thought about it, whether they haven't, it's something that if I were to say it, it resonates with them.
Right.
And so for me, out of that idea, that is where Tarodcast was born. It was born from, me getting to a level in my adulthood where I'm like, okay, I'm really starting to understand accountability. I'm really starting to understand what it means to navigate, to be wrong a lot.
You have been very transparent within this journey. I've also seen it. The beauties and I have had a chance to see it through the podcast. We spoke about your then girlfriend, now wife. You all currently were very transparent in a journey that you all went through.
Mm-hmm.
You talked to us about it through the podcast. You even through your social media.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, I take it that this was a therapeutic process for you, and not just you, but her as well. You all dealt with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
This is a rare thing where we have gentlemen who are willing to be transparent when it comes to things that are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a cultural thing. It's a gender thing that a man cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know how to fix everything is you all's mantra. So this was something new and refreshing for me because it's not seen often where the roles tend to be reversed, where the husband has to show his vulnerability while still maintaining that sense of control, that sense of I can fix this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So can you give the beauties a little bit of the backstory that led into this journey, and then just let us know what was going on, because now let me tell you this first. Friend is doing wonderful. The wife is doing wonderful. God is good. The baby's doing wonderful.
Yes.
But yeah, I think because one of the reasons why I brought this up with your friend and I wanted to discuss it with you is because once again you were transparent about this from the gate,
right?
And because mental health is something that's not really talked about in our community.
Yes. Well, for me, my love, appreciation, and understanding and camaraderie for mental health started, just being exposed to that, being exposed to the fact that there are unseen challenges that people have. And earlier this year, whenever the situation that happened with my family happened, I wanted to, again, be as transparent about it as possible, especially on my show. And to be quite honest, the show in and of itself, my wife wanted to do in order to be, or in order to just get it out, in order to just talk about it and actually put a face to what exactly is happening. And it was a situation that really showed us a lot about ourselves. It showed us who you really are when the situation really calls for it. And for me, choosing to engage in this process and to allow my wife the opportunity to just talk about her experiences and what she sees and what she's gone through, in that episode. It was honestly, it was one of the hardest to do because it's not something that again is always talked about in our community.
It's very I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's very rarely talked about in our community.
Yeah, I mean, and with that being said, yes, all of that is definitely things that I learned just along this journey because the things about this, it's like again, we if you have a brain as a human, then it doesn't disqualify you when it comes to what you look like, as far as whether you do or don't have a mental health issue or whatever. It can be with anyone. And I know that with our community, a lot of it is not understood in a way that allows us to have the empathy and the care and the love that we need in order to really talk about what's going on. Because again, it's like, just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Said invisible scars.
Exactly, and I feel like when it comes to those who deal with any type of mental health issue, as far as what I've seen, because for me, I don't necessarily have a specific diagnosable mental health issue.
Right.
But I know for a lot of people that do, they wish it could just be visible, because
it would give a lot of people more understanding.
Exactly, because like if you have a cold, you're coughing and sneezing, but when you're depressed, it just looks like you don't want to get out of bed. Or if you're having a manic moment, it's like, what, you feel super good, you want to go to the store, you want to buy some things, or or you just want to go out, see a whole bunch of people, or and people don't understand there's a shift that's happening, and also being just understanding things like that and how it can truly affect not only who you are but how you are. To be honest, communication is one of the things that for us specifically is the foundation of what we have. And so, when it came to what happened earlier this year, and the what's the word I'm looking for, the event that happened earlier this year, mental health was always a conversation, and so learning about mental health was something that, for me, I learned a lot through her, because she trusted me with what she could say and what she was also trying to say. And so for me, just being able to, learn the things that I was able to learn through her is what allowed me to have even the understanding that I have today, and also to be able to get to a point where we can also express these things together, in a way that made sense, or as much sense as it could possibly make. But at the same time, it's just, realizing that, throughout the years, it's like, I understand that, mental breakdowns are a thing. They happen whether you want them to or not, and most oftentimes you don't want them to happen. But it's not something that for a lot of people you can just control, because as far as what I've learned, there are certain conditions where it feels like your brain is actively working against you, and there are certain things that you want to do but your brain is telling you something or showing you something, like a different as my wife likes to say, sometimes it can make you feel like you're in a different reality, but you're seeing regular world as it's happening at the same time. And so, a lot of people don't necessarily understand what type of
does she suffer from manic depression?
When it comes to that, yes. Because there are moments, there are moments, and the thing is, with her being also aware of those moments as well, she can communicate that, you know. And I feel like just with the because and I'll say this, oftentimes we believe mental illness to be associated with, you know, people who are in a, you know, a psychiatric treatment facility, an asylum, you know, in a straitjacket,
right.
you know, things like that.
They're walking
you know,
around about
right
every day.
It's like but it's like, you know, and oftentimes we think that that is what it is, but in reality what a lot of us don't realize is that, you know, it for a lot of people who do struggle with some sort of, and I don't want to say struggle, who deal with mental illness in any form or fashion, there are parts of them where they feel like they can be normal, but at the same time there are things that completely make them feel alien because people can't see what's going on, you know. And that's the part that, you know, she really like she really communicated with me, because, you know, there's a lot of people, like you were saying earlier, it can be a trauma, it could be, you know, something that happened, you know, just within your DNA or your makeup or whatever the case may be, that could be a factor into how your brain, you know, evolves and grows as you age and mature. And so, you know, because there's a lot of
triggers.
You know, yeah, exactly, and there's triggers. A lot of stuff that scientists are still trying to figure out.
Put that out there to the beauty. There are triggers.
Right.
There are moments where you can be fine.
Mm-hmm.
You can go 2 years and you're fine, and maybe something, a memory, just anything, and it triggers. Do you all have you all found and recognized some of her triggers in order for like prevention and just to be able to help you deal with it a little bit?
You know, for us, it's like I said, it's constantly and consistently about communication. You know, like I was saying earlier, as far as even my journey towards, you know, trying to be and being the man that I am now, you know, there were parts of me that, yes, could be identified as triggers, because, you know, there could be a certain thing or a certain thing I say, or, you know, something like that, where, you know, those types of correlations, you know, could possibly trigger, you know, what's called like a low, as opposed to a high, you know, like high being manic, low being depressed, you know. And so, you know, those kind of things, they'll just be able to even understand those things about myself,
right,
you know, to where when it comes to communicating and living in a way where, you know, we all have the ability to be ourselves, and to understand and respect one another. You know, it's one of those things that it definitely took a lot of conversation and a lot of growth and understanding from me, because again, there were a lot of things about myself that I also had to fix as well,
to even help deal with what she was going through.
Right. You know, just to be able to you know, reconcile within myself, so that way I could, you know, fully have the most open heart and open mind I could have to everything that she was giving to me, you know, the highs and the lows. And so for me, it's like it's do you love this woman, you know, to be able to want to understand and to want to be there, because, you know, it's I feel like, you know, a lot of people don't really even get that to that level within themselves, you know, asking themselves the question, do you want to be in this situation? Do you want to love this person through everything? You know, because everything is good when the days are good, you know, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, exactly. And so it's like, do you want to be there?
I would like to talk a little bit about the standpoint of the loved one who has to deal with someone who is dealing with mental health. It is implied that you are to be supportive. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't, you know what I'm saying, but mental health is a tricky thing. So I want you to tell, like, the beauties, like, I want you to kind of be honest with the beauties, with like some of the the frustrated emotions that you went through,
Mm-hmm.
as well as how you dealt with this,
Mm-hmm.
and was it a difficult process, and where did you go
Mm-hmm.
for some comfort, some help? Like, where did you find support? Because we rarely talk about the support for those that are trying to support someone dealing with mental health.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, my biggest frustration is knowing that there are certain things that I won't be able to understand about what is happening in that moment. Not being able to step inside of one's mind when they are in the midst of something that they can't control. That the thing that frustrates me the most is not being able to fully relate, because my brain doesn't operate the same way. And for me, that's the thing that really hurts me the most, is because it's like you can, a lot of people say cliche things like, oh, you need to think happy thoughts, or just things like that, but it's not that simple. And I understand it's not that simple, but what frustrates me is the fact that I don't understand to the degree that I would want to understand, as far as how not simple that process really is. Because if a brain was like a light switch and you had control over it, then yeah, things would be a lot easier.
Right.
But it's not the case, because sometimes, as far as what I've seen, you know what I've observed is like something can be starting and you realize it and you want to try and push it back, but sometimes it comes in waves, and sometimes you have to let it also run its course, you know. And for me, is that honestly, that my biggest frustration is only being able to understand up to a certain point,
Right.
because there I can connect only up to a certain point, but because my brain doesn't operate the same way as far as getting into the depths of the darkness sometimes, those are things that for me, it tears me up, because it's something that it's just like I wish I could like be in it, so that way, when the brain
Help
tells you
navigate through the
exactly
situation.
that, and also when the brain makes you feel like you're alone, and even the people closest to you, sometimes your brain is saying it's only you. Those are the things that it's like I wish I could be like banging on the door,
Come here.
outside the brain, exactly, trying to like scare it away, or whatever the case, but it's just like knowing I can't do that sometimes. That's the thing that really hits me.
Yeah. I
And
can imagine you all have a family,
mm-hmm.
which at the point when it was made you somewhat the primary caregiver of you all's daughter, while your wife was trying to get better. Yeah, I'm gonna be a little sarcastic in this serious moment. Did it give you a better understanding of how we feel as women, having to handle home, hearth, and spouse?
Yeah, and the thing is, no, it definitely did, but at the same time, just knowing that for us, we had to keep everything together. There's no point in letting things fall by the wayside. There's no point in being so caught up to where it's just like and not to necessarily say that somebody can't, or that they're not entitled to feel the way that they feel, because people handle things in many different ways.
Right.
But as far as me being husband, a father, as far as like understanding what my responsibility is in this moment, I knew that as much as it hurt, I also had to make sure I stood tall and I stood firm, so that way, when we started transitioning back into normal routine, it didn't feel different, you know, because the last thing I want to do is create this atmosphere where, you know, and you know, where you know, you step back into a situation and it feels like you're walking on eggshells, you know, because and again, it's just wanting to do everything I can to understand what's happening, so that way I can have that empathy and I can, you know, do those things that allow me to connect with what is happening and what's going on. Excuse me, because, you know, again, if I just, for me, if I just would have, you know, left it in a if I just would have left it in an arena where I didn't give myself the opportunity to try and at least in some capacity understand what was going on, then I would have been doing her a disservice.
A big disservice.
You know?
Your daughter too.
Exactly.
She deserves her mother.
Right. You know?
She deserves a healthy mother.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's understanding that, you know, as you get older, as you have, you know, these relationships,
sacrifices don't nobody be wanting to
right,
talk about.
You know, no, it is.
That's another show to ride. Sacrifices. That's a show by itself. So.
But at the same time, it's just like, you know, it really showed me who I was in those moments and what was necessary of me to do. Because again, the last thing that I'd want to do is to create an environment where, you know, people don't feel like they can be themselves. And in my house, we are ourselves 24/7. Exactly. You know, 365, 366 on leap year. You know, we are who we are, and we allow ourselves that freedom to be, you know, just to simply be, you know, amongst one another.
I'm glad that you came on the show to talk about this. One of the reasons why I don't have, you know, Dr. Susan and her PhD is because when it comes to, and I'm for therapy, so I don't want anybody to, you know, black people go.
Yeah, please. I'm like, look,
you know, you can't talk to your sister, mama, cousin. Go talk to the stranger. I promise I ain't gonna hold no.
Look, if anything, and this is just my, you know, side note conversation, but you know, if we were to ever receive reparations in America, I feel like therapy for everyone should be included, because there are a lot of things about ourselves that we repress, that we don't want to think about, or, you know, we just simply just put all the way back, that we never really address until something big happens or you are triggered or whatever the case may be. And so unlocking and unpacking those things that within our heads that we sometimes just don't think about, I feel like that is important as far as understanding who you are and why you are.
But I found with people in our community, and just hurt people and people, broke people, you know, just people that go through what we go through, tend to relate more, understand more to experience versus, you know, someone saying, this is what you should do. They relate more to, this is what I've been through. So I thank you for coming on, sharing your story, sharing what you went through with your family, because that in itself, just like you applaud your wife for the courage to tell her story, I applaud you for telling you all's story.
Thank you.
And I thank